Hey, how's it going? This is Kevin from Audio Digital. I'm back with another video, and in this video, I want to show you an issue, a problem with the Wavetable Oscillator that's in the grid. I'm showing it to you. It's in beta software right now, and I'm using beta 3. So this is something that hopefully will change soon. So this video probably won't be very useful for long, but I think it's kind of interesting, the issue that I found. And so I wanted to share it with you for your information. But I also want to let you know that this could change, and I'll leave a link for another video if this situation changes. So let's get into what's going on here. So what we have here is the Wavetable Oscillator, and it sounds pretty great. What I did was loaded a wavetable that's part of Massive into it, and it works flawlessly. The issue comes in when we play high notes, and the higher the note that you play in most synthesizers, the better chance you're going to get some aliasing. And getting rid of aliasing is actually kind of hard to do. It takes some thought and planning, but I'm going to play a high C note here, and I'm going to start at the beginning of the wavetable, and you can hear what kind of result we get here. Now, there's a lot of aliasing there, and I apologize for the annoying sound that makes. But when I play the note again, I'm going to do the pitch bend some so that you can really hear the extent of the aliasing. Now that is super audible. I'm going to turn off the sound for that, and just let's look at the spectrum here. Now you can see that there's a bunch of bumpies right here, and those are most of these, the ones that are shorter there are the aliasing. And if I change the pitch, you can see that those frequencies are moving very differently than the fundamental and the harmonics. That's all aliasing, and that is pretty loud aliasing too. Now, let's compare that to some other synthesizers like VPS Avenger. I have the same wavetable loaded on this guy. And if you look at the graph down here, you can see there is aliasing taking place. It's just at a much lower level, and there's not as much of it. So that's much better performance. Let's try Massive, the OG here. I have it muted so that we don't have to hear the sound, but you can see there is aliasing there, but at a much lower level. And I'm going to let you hear it so you can see if it's audible or not. So not so audible, right? And let's try Falcon. I'm going to turn it on. I'm not sure if you could hear that, but it was audible, but much quieter than the Wavetable Oscillator from Bitwig. So it turns out to be the most loud aliasing oscillator of any of the synths that I own. I think there's like a few synths that I own that are lame that I never use, and they could be worse, but it's really, really bad. And the kind of positive note is that if I load the same wavetable onto the sampler and switch over to the sampler instead of using the wavetable and do the same experiment, much less aliasing. Let's go back to the Wavetable Oscillator. I mean, that is way louder. So I would compare the sampler's ability to handle that wavetable similar to what you can get from Falcon. It's audible, but not so bad. But certainly Massive and VPS Avenger outperformed them both. So this is getting up into, I don't know, can I say unusable? I don't know, but it's pretty bad. It is a pretty big issue. But again, this is beta software, so it's hopefully something that they will address. And since this can do a better job, I think they can make the wavetable do a better job. So I'm very hopeful. But other than that, that's all I have for this video. If you're interested in this subject, which I find fascinating actually, let me know in the comments and I'll do an entire video on aliasing, not just what it is, but how to avoid it and what we can do. One thing that you might wonder is, hey, can I just filter out the aliasing coming from this wavetable oscillator and then problem solve? No, you actually can't. Once the aliasing is produced and you come out of the oscillator and then go to something else, it's there permanently. You can't really get rid of it. I mean, there might be some really complicated and labor-intensive way to get rid of it, but the best way to get rid of aliasing in an oscillator is to just never produce it in the first place. And that's what most of the synthesizers do to get rid of aliasing. They just don't produce the higher frequencies. And that actually turns out to be a more difficult problem than you might originally assume it is. It's a little bit difficult to, when you're generating a waveform at different frequencies, to make it so that it's not generating frequencies above Nyquist, which is basically the upper limit of the frequencies that you can reproduce at a certain sample rate. So it's an interesting and difficult problem to solve, but it's one that Bitwig has solved in other oscillators. For instance, we have this sawtooth oscillator. If we look at, it didn't work, here we go. If we look at how the aliasing looks from this oscillator, let's go over here. I'm going to turn off the audio because we don't really need it. But you see, here's the aliasing there. It's very low. And it's not audible. But in the same package, there's another oscillator. Let's use the data one here. This sawtooth here, I'm going to need to use a phase to make it work. So let's just put that and put that in there. And then we're going to replace it and plug it into here. Now, if I play it now, you see there's all this aliasing as opposed to if I'm using this one. See the huge difference there? And that's because this oscillator is using anti-aliasing techniques and this one is not. Then that's why this one is more CPU intensive than this one, because it takes some processing power to get rid of these extra frequencies. And this really, I'm going to let you hear it because it sounds like garbage. Oh, that's awful. That's awful. And let's switch it back to the sawtooth. So if you ever wondered why you would use the sawtooth rather than this saw, that's why. This gives you a much cleaner signal, no audible aliasing, but it comes at a cost of processor power. So anyway, it's a fascinating subject. That's where we're at right now with Bitwig. The Wavetables oscillator has that issue going on. It's a fixable issue, I believe, and we'll see what Bitwig can do with this. But in any case, that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching, and hey, have a good day. Bye.